Welcome to Mystery Manor. In this episode, we visit the Sussex countryside where a weekend fete at Greengate Hall turns from laughter to tragedy when an old string of Camel Bells reveals a secret more dangerous than anyone imagined. This mystery's inspired by the intelligence of Agatha Christie's world, yet written entirely in our own voice, weaving new deceit into the familiar grace of her timeless stories. If you enjoy this episode, please give this video a like and share it with fellow mystery lovers. Before we begin, tell me where you're tuning in from and how's the weather down there. Always read your comments and truly enjoy hearing from you. Now, as always, grab a coffee, stay curious, and let's get started. Chapter 1: The Bells of Greengate. The Threads of Timbuktu. Chapter 1: The Bells of Greengate. The motor car turned between stone gate posts and onto a drive lined with copper beeches. Superintendent Battle sat in the passenger seat. His large frame settled comfortably against the leather upholstery, his eyes taking in the Sussex landscape with the mild interest of a man on holiday. Chief Constable Narration handled the wheel with the confidence of someone who knew these roads well. "Appreciate you coming down, Battle. I know it's irregular. Happy to have the fresh air. Lady Aurelia is a good woman. Means well. But this weekend," Narration hesitated. "Something about it sits wrong. Can't put my finger on it." Battle said nothing. Had learned long ago that silence invited confidence is more effectively than questions. "She's hosting this fete for her charity, the Saharan Schools Fund. Very worthy. But the centerpiece is a string of camel bells she's bought from some dealer, allegedly from Timbuktu, allegedly, encoding a secret caravan route to gold." Narration's tone made clear his opinion of such romance. "She's invited half the county and a foreign prince to boot. I'd feel easier knowing you were there just as a guest, you understand?" "Of course." Greengate Hall rose before them, a crenellated country house of warm stone against the green sweep of the South Downs. The architecture spoke of the 18th century, with earlier bones showing through, a tower that predated the rest by 200 years at least. They were met at the door by a woman in her early 40s, handsome rather than pretty, with a capable air of someone accustomed to managing households and expectations. Like, "Chief Constable, how good of you to come, and this must be Superintendent Battle." Mrs. Beatrice Aldrin extended her hand with a warmth that reached her gray eyes. "Lady Aurelia speaks of little else. She's convinced Scotland Yard must find her bells as fascinating as she does. I'm here as a private visitor, Mrs. Auditton. Of course you are." The ghost of amusement touched her mouth. "Do come through everyone's gathering in the long gallery." Battle followed her through rooms that showed both good taste and long habitation. The furniture bore the patina of generations. The carpets were faded in the traffic patterns of decades. Money here, but not new money. The long gallery ran the length of the house's south face, tall windows flooding it with afternoon light. A dozen people stood in groups, teacups in hand, their voices creating that peculiar hum of social gathering where everyone speaks and no one quite listens. Lady Aurelia Harbray detached herself from a cluster near the fireplace. Was 60 if she was a day, dressed in flowing silks that belonged more to an artist's studio than a country drawing. Her face alight with the enthusiasm of the perpetually romantic. "Superintendent Battle, how wonderful. You must see the bells immediately. They're quite extraordinary." Before Battle could respond, she had seized his arm and propelled him toward a display case near the windows. The bells hung there, a string of them in graduated sizes, each tarnished and dented, the leather thongs dark with age or the appearance of it. 16th century. Lady Aurelia breathed from a caravan master's own camel train. The varying pitches encode the route, wells, dunes, landmarks. Basil Turnbull found them in an estate sale in Cornwall of all places. Imagine a treasure map in bells. Battle examined them with the stolid patience that had served him well through 20 years at the yard. They looked like bells, old bells certainly, but whether they held secrets or merely the residue of desert journeys he could not say. Romantic nonsense. The voice came from behind them, crisp and dismissive. Battle turned to find a woman of 50 in a severe gray suit, her hair cut short, her expression that of someone perpetually unimpressed by human folly. Dr. Ellingham doesn't believe in romance. Lady Aurelia smiled without rancor. She's a musicologist, Cambridge. She studies bell acoustics and serial patterns. I study facts. Marellingham moved closer to the case, her eyes narrowing. These bells may be. The story attached to them is certainly not. Someone has been very creative with ash and oil to achieve. That patina on the thongs. My dear Maud, you're determined to spoil everything. I'm determined to prevent the foundation from making itself ridiculous. A man materialized at Lady Aurelia's elbow with the practiced ease of someone skilled at smoothing social waters. Geoffrey Marrow was perhaps 35. Pleasant-faced, his clothes good without being ostentatious. He extended his hand to Battle in greeting, a firm grip, the kind meant to convey confidence. Battle noted the lateral callus along the palm's edge, the mark of someone who had worked with tension and resistance, fencing perhaps, or wire work of some kind. Marrow smiled at Dr. Ellingham with the patient tolerance one might show a querulous child. Surely the bell's value lies in what they represent for the fund, not in medieval authenticity. And the story captures imagination, and that's worth something. It's worth precisely what credulous people will pay for it. Then we shall be rich indeed. Lady Aurelia laughed. Come, Superintendent, you must meet everyone properly. That gentleman by the piano is Prince Idris Al-Khad. He's come all the way from North Africa to see the bells. He claims his family knew of such strings. The prince inclined his head gravely at the introduction. His English was formal, unaccented. His manner that of someone accustomed to diplomatic restraint. Battle moved through the introductions with his customary stolid courtesy. Basil Turnbull, the dealer who had found the bells, proved to be a fit man in his 50s, given to expansive gestures and stories that grew in the telling. Neville Petta, the factum, had the wiry build and watchful eyes of a man who knew how things worked mechanically and otherwise. Oswald Pike, the solicitor, was gray in coloring and manner both. His handshake brief, his attention already elsewhere. A younger woman slipped through with a tea tray, dark-haired and quick-moving. Leah Ree, Mrs. Bullerton's maid, had the remnants of stage prettiness about her, the kind that served well under footlights but faded in daylight. We'll ring the bells at sunset. Lady Aurelia's announcement cut through the conversation. From the tower, the view is magnificent, and the sound will carry across the downs. It will be quite perfect. Battle glanced toward the ancient tower visible through the windows. Something in Narracott's unease had communicated itself, though he could not have said what precisely troubled him. Mrs. Alderton appeared at his side with a fresh cup of tea. You mustn't let Aurelia overwhelm you, Superintendent. She means well, but she does rather collect enthusiasms. And Mr. Marrow, is he an enthusiasm? The question was mild, but her eyes sharpened with quick intelligence. Geoffrey has been very kind since my husband died last year. He understands charitable work. I'm sure he does. She looked at him then, with the expression of someone who has heard what was not said, then moved away to attend to her other guests. Battle set down his teacup and walked to the window. The tower rose against the afternoon sky, its crenellations sharp against the clouds. From somewhere came the sound of wind in the eaves, a low note that might have been bells or merely the complaint of old stone against weather. The weekend stretched ahead full of fates and charitable purposes and romantic legends. Battle settled his shoulders and prepared to watch. Chapter 2. The Tower Fall. Chapter 2. The Tower Fall. The sunset gathered strength as the party assembled in the entrance hall. Lady Aurelia stood at the center wrapped in a shawl of peacock blue, her face bright with anticipation. The light will be perfect in 10 minutes. We must climb now. Battle noticed the hesitations. Dr. Ellingham made no move toward the tower door. Prince Idris touched his watch with one finger, then let his hand fall. Basil Turnbull mopped his forehead with a handkerchief despite the cool evening air. "Come along, everyone." Mrs. Alderton's voice carried the brisk efficiency of a woman accustomed to managing reluctant guests. "It won't take long, and Aurelia has set her heart on it." Geoffrey Marrow produced a key from his pocket with a flourish. "Found it in the ivy bowl by the garden door. Someone must have mislaid it earlier. How fortunate." Battle's tone revealed nothing. The tower stair wound upward in tight spirals. The stone steps worn, concave by centuries of feet. Battle climbed steadily, his breathing unlabored, his eyes cataloging details. The walls showed patches of damp. The rope handrail frayed in places. Halfway up, the staircase passed through what must once have been a separate floor. Bare stone now with an iron bracket jutting from the wall. The new post at the top landing gleamed with fresh paint, an incongruous green against the weathered stone. "Neville painted it yesterday." Mrs. Alderton touched the post lightly, testing for tackiness. "He's been working his way through all the woodwork. The sea air corrodes everything." The tower roof opened to the sky. Square platform enclosed by crenellated walls waist high. The bells hung from the iron bracket Battle had seen below. The leather thongs secured to a ring bolt. Above them the weather vane turned slowly in the rising wind. Lady Aurelia moved to the western parapet, leaning out to catch the last full rays of sun. The light turned her gray hair to silver, her face to that of a woman half her age. "Listen, the legend says each bell marks a day's journey. The deepest note is the starting well. The highest is the gold." She reached for the bell string. The wind gusted suddenly, carrying the salt smell of distant sea. The bell swung and chimed, a cascade of notes, discordant and strangely hollow. Then two notes that did not belong. Higher, clearer, metallic. Lady Aurelia jerked backward, her hand flying to her throat. For an instant, Battle thought she would regain her balance. But the bells tangled about her arm, their weight pulling her forward, and she went over the parapet without a sound. The scream came from Lyra. Battle reached the edge in 3 strides. Below on the flagstones of the courtyard, Lady Aurelia lay in a crumpled heap of blue silk, the bells scattered about her like bronze flowers. "No one move." His voice cut through the rising panic. Prince Idris stood frozen at the stair entrance. Dr. Ellingham gripped the opposite parapet, her face gray. Basil Turnbull made small whimpering sounds. Geoffrey Marrow had his arm around Mrs. Alderton, who stood rigid and pale but composed. Paretta Battle's voice carried down the stair. "Telephone for a doctor and the police. No one is to approach the body." He turned back to the tower roof, eyes moving methodically across the space. The bells hung empty now, their strings swaying in the wind. The weather vane rotated with a faint squeak. The green-painted mule showed a scuff mark, a small flake of paint clinging to one of the bell thongs where they lay coiled on the stone. "An accident." Mrs. Alderton's voice held steady. She leaned too far. "The wind, perhaps." Battle knelt by the bell string. Near where it attached to the bracket, a strand of black thread wrapped tight around the leather. He touched it with one finger. Strong thread, the kind used for heavy mending. He looked up at the weather vane bracket above. The groove marked the metal where something had rubbed. Shallow but distinct. "Go down." Geoffrey Marrow spoke quietly. "There's nothing to be done up here." Moment, Battle moved to the parapet where Lady Aurelia had stood. The stone showed no marks, no disturbance. But when he looked over, he saw what the others had missed. A small fragment of champagne cork wire caught in a crack 2 feet below the edge, as though something had snagged there and pulled free. The doctor arrived as they descended. Battle stood back while the examination proceeded, his face expressionless. Dr. Marchman straightened after several minutes, his mouth set in a grim line. "Neck broken. Death would have been immediate. Accidental. I see no evidence otherwise." But the doctor's tone suggested reservations he would not voice publicly. Chief Constable Narration appeared half an hour later, his face troubled. He drew Battle aside into the library, where the evening shadows gathered thick. Tell me, Battle related what he had observed. The phantom notes, the scuff on the thread and wire, the groove on the weather vane bracket. Narration listened without interruption. You think it wasn't an accident? I think the bells made sounds they shouldn't have made. I think several small details form a pattern, though I don't yet see what pattern. The household, Mrs. Auditton, insists the fete continue tomorrow in subdued form. The guests are shocked but cooperative. Mr. Marrow has been particularly solicitous. And your instinct? Battle was silent for a moment, looking out at the tower, darkening against the last light. Someone knew where that key would be. Someone painted that mule yesterday, though the rest of the woodwork remains undone. Someone had access to strong thread and wire. You'll stay? Narration nodded once and departed. Battle returned to the long gallery where the guests had gathered in small, uneasy clusters. Leia sat apart, her face blotched with tears, her hands twisted in her lap. On the table beside her stood her work basket open. Battle saw the usual contents: needles, scissors, spools of ordinary thread. But when she rose to fetch a handkerchief, he glimpsed what lay beneath. A length of black thread, heavy gauge, several pieces of cork wire twisted together, both pushed hastily to the bottom as though hidden. Mrs. Alderton moved through the room, her composure remarkable, offering tea and brandy and quiet words. Geoffrey Marrow remained at her side, his presence unobtrusive but constant. Battle accepted a cup he did not want and watched. The tower stood beyond the windows, a darker mass against the dark sky. Somewhere in its stones lay the answer to two notes that should not have sounded to a fall that might not have been a fall. He sipped the lukewarm tea and prepared for a long night. Chapter 3. The Cipher of Greed. Chapter 3. The Cipher of Greed. Saturday morning broke gray and close, the kind of weather that pressed down on the spirits. Battle found Mrs. Alderton in the morning room, already dressed, her face showing the strain of a sleepless night. The fete will proceed at 11 o'clock. Aurelia would have wanted it. Her fingers pleated the edge of her napkin. The foundation matters. The children matter. Very sensible. Geoffrey thinks. Ahmed. He suggested canceling everything, returning the guest donations, closing the house for morning. She looked up. But that would mean her death accomplished nothing. Won't have that. Battle accepted coffee from the sideboard and took the chair opposite. Through the window he watched Parita directing two men as they erected a striped canopy on the south lawn. Ellingham spoke to me last night. Before Mrs. Alderton stopped, began again. Was furious about her lecture being cut from the program. Aurelia thought the cipher demonstration would be too academic for the patrons. What cipher? The bells. Dr. Ellingham claimed she had decoded the sequence. She said it spelled something, though she wouldn't tell me what. She planned to present her findings this afternoon in the music room. Battle set down his cup. Where is Dr. Ellingham now? Preparing her materials. I assume she requisitioned the music room at 9 this morning. The fate unfolded with the determined gaiety of an event that must succeed despite circumstances. Patrons arrived, offered condolences, examined the displays of photographs and maps showing the Saharan schools. Prince Idris stood beside the bell case, answering questions with grave courtesy. Basil Turnbull worked the crowd with the practiced ease of a man who knew the value of a tragedy for drawing attention. Battle moved through the gathering, his unremarkable appearance allowing him to observe unnoticed. He watched Geoffrey Marrow guide Mrs. Alderton from group to group, his hand light on her elbow, his manner solicitor. He noted Leia Reese's red eyes and shaking hands as she served tea. Marked how Oswald Pike stood apart, his ledger under one arm, his expression troubled. At 2 o'clock, Mrs. Alderton tapped a spoon against her glass. Dr. Ellingham will now present her findings on bell acoustics and historical ciphers. The music room, if you please. The guests filed through. Battle counted 30 people taking seats. Mrs. Alderton stood by the door, glancing at her watch. 5 minutes passed. How unlike Maud to be late. Mrs. Alderton's brows drew together. Would you check her room? The maid returned 3 minutes later, her face puzzled. She's not there, ma. Her papers are spread on the bed, but the music room perhaps she might have gone. Ahead. But the music room stood empty, chairs arranged, the piano silent. Mrs. Alderton moved to the curtains that screened the small stage at the room's far end. She pulled the curtain aside. Her gasp brought Battle across the room in 4 strides. Dr. Ellingham lay behind. The heavy velvet. Her body twisted, her face purple-lead, a thin wire buried in the flesh of her throat. Beside her, a metronome ticked with mechanical indifference, its brass arms swinging in perfect rhythm. Battle knelt, checked for pulse, though he knew what he would find, then rose and closed the curtain. Everyone out. Mrs. Alderton, telephone Constable Narration. No one leaves the room emptied in shocked silence. Battle remained, examining the scene. With methodical care. The wire had been removed. Only the deep groove in Dr. Ellingham's neck showed where it had been. The metronome's base showed a small smear of something sticky. Resin, perhaps? He touched it. With one finger, sniffed. Yes, resin. Dr. Ellingham's handbag lay nearby. Battle opened it. No notes about bell ciphers, no papers at all beyond a train schedule, and a receipt from a Cambridge music shop. But in the outside pocket, fragment of paper torn roughly, the corner of a larger sheet. On it, Dr. Ellingham's angular hand, greed, not gold, the acrostic, the rest was missing. Narration arrived within the hour, his face grim. Twice in 24 hours. This is no accident, Battle. What do you need? Time to speak with each person. Separately, and I need to know where everyone was between 1:30 and 2 o'clock. The interrogations proceeded through the afternoon. Prince Idris had been in the folly, practicing calligraphy. The vicar confirmed it, having brought him reference materials. Basil Turnbull was on the lawn, witnessed by a dozen patrons. Paretta had been directing the canopy removal. Leah Ree was in the kitchen helping cook. Geoffrey Marrow had escorted Mrs. Alderton to her room at 1:45. She had asked for 20 minutes alone. Had waited in the corridor, he said, until she emerged at 2:10. You saw no one else? No one. Meow's face showed appropriate distress. This is terrible. Poor Dr. Ellingham. She could be abrasive, but she claimed to have decoded something in the bells. Aurelia mentioned it. Marrow spread his hands. Academic rivalry, perhaps. She and Prince Idris disagreed about the bell's authenticity. Battle made no response. He dismissed Marrow and turned his attention to the metronome. The resin puzzled him. Where had it come from? He walked to Paretta's workshop behind the stables, examined the shelves, tallow for woodwork, oil for hinges, no resin. Back in the house, he found Oswald Pike in the library staring at a folder of papers. Superintendent, I need to speak with you. It's about the Foundation Trust. Go on. Lady Aurelia was to sign an amended deed this weekend. It altered the succession of trustees. Without her signature, control passes to the continuing trustee named in the current deed. Pike's hands trembled. Only discovered this morning who is. Mrs. Alderton added an amendment last year. During her bereavement, she named Mr. Marrow. Pike's voice dropped. Lady Aurelia died before signing the new deed. Mr. Marrow gained substantial control over Foundation assets and expenditures, not ownership, but management, the power to direct funds, approve purchases, set valuations, and the bells would be sold at whatever valuation Mr. Marrow and the board accepted. With Lady Aurelia gone and Mrs. Alderton grieving, Pike stopped. I may be speaking out of turn. You're being prudent. Battle left him and climbed to his room. From the window he watched the lawn below. Geoffrey Marrow stood talking with Basil Turnbull, their heads close together. As Battle watched, Turnbull shook his head violently and walked away. Marrow stood alone, his pleasant face unreadable at this distance. Battle turned and examined the notes he had. The thread in Leia's basket, the scuff on the painted knoll, the groove on the weather vane bracket, the missing wire, the resin, Dr. Ellingham's torn note about greed, the trust amendment, pieces of a pattern, but the pattern remained obscured. He needed one more piece, something that would make the whole picture clear. He descended to the music room. The metronome still ticked, a sound that grated on the nerves. He bent to examine its base more closely. There, pressed into the resin, a minute shaving of green paint. Chapter 4. The Third Wire. Chapter 4. The Third Wire. Battle woke at 4 Sunday morning to the sound of running footsteps in the corridor. He pulled on his dressing gown and opened the door as Paretta thundered past, his face white. The tower, Mr. Pike. Battle followed it. A run. The tower door stood open, lamplight spilling onto the flags. At the base of the stair, Oswald Pike lay crumpled, his head at an unnatural angle, blood seeping from a gash above his temple. Found him 2 minutes ago. Paretta's voice shook. I heard a cry. Came to look. Battle knelt beside Pike. Pulse beat faint and erratic beneath his fingers. Pike's eyes fluttered, focused with difficulty. Blind. The word came as a whisper. Below. Then consciousness fled. Battle straightened as Geoffrey Marrow appeared at the door. Mrs. Alderton behind him. What's happened? We heard. Marrow stopped, taking in the scene. Good God, telephoned for Dr. Marchman quickly. Mrs. Alderton moved past him, her face set. She bent over Pike, felt for his pulse, then looked up at Battle. He's alive, but barely. What was he doing here? That's what I intend to discover. Battle climbed the tower stair, his lamp throwing grotesque shadows on the walls. At the top landing, the green null post showed a fresh mark, a hairline groove cut into the paint, circling the post. Like a gar mark on skin. He touched it. The paint beneath felt soft, recently disturbed. The tower roof stood empty, the dawn wind carrying the smell of coming rain. Battle examined the weather vane bracket. The second groove marked it, shallower than the first, but unmistakable. Something had been attached here, then removed in haste. He descended to find Dr. Marchman administering to Pike in the entrance hall where they had carried him. Skull fracture, possible spinal damage. He needs a hospital, but moving him. Marchman shook his head. I'll do what I can hear. Will he live? The next few hours will tell. Pike did not see those hours. At 7 o'clock, with rain drumming on the windows and the household gathered in silent dread, his breathing stopped. Dr. Marchman closed the dead man's eyes and stood. 3 deaths in as many days. What manner of house is this? Battle made no answer. He returned to the tower, examined every inch of stair and landing. Near the bottom, where Pike had fallen, a brick in the wall showed fresh scratches. He worked it loose. Behind, a cavity, empty now, but showing recent use, dust-disturbed mortar. Crumbled. In Paretta's workshop, he found a file with brick dust on it. On the workbench, a coil of thin wire that might have been piano wire or might have been something more sinister. Paretta stood in the doorway, his face haggard. That's not mine. I use tallow for joints, not resin. I work with rope and chain, not wire. When did you last inventory your tools? Friday morning before the guests arrived. And this wire wasn't here then. I'd swear to it. Battle lifted the coil. Beneath it, caught in the rough wood, a thread of crimson. He held it to the light. Silk finely woven, the kind used in metal ribbons or expensive trim. He walked to the house and found Leia Ree in the servants' hall, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she did not drink. Miss Ree, Mr. Marrow has spoken with you about the tower. What did he ask? Her eyes widened with fear. I can't. This is murder 3 times over. Well, tell me what you know. The words came in a rush. He asked if the weather vane shaft ran inside the tower. The thread would catch on fresh paint, but knew where Mrs. Alderton kept her keys. She pressed her hands to her face. Thought he was being curious. He smiled so nicely. I never thought when was this. Thursday evening before you all. Battle left her and sought out Narration, who had arrived within an hour of Pike's. They closeted themselves in the library. 3 murders, the same method. Each time. Wire remotely controlled design to look accidental or at least untraceable. Battle spread his notes across the desk. Lady Aurelia opposed, changing the trust arrangement. She planned to sign new papers that would have given her full control and eliminated the continuing trustee provision. Pike was bringing those papers to her Saturday morning, but she died Friday night precisely. With her death unsigned, Jeffrey Marrow becomes continuing trustee. He gains control over foundation expenditures, valuations, purchases. Dr. Ellingham decoded the Bell cipher, not treasure, but fraud and acrostic. Spelling greed. She was killed before she could present her findings. And Pike discovered the trust clause, confronted Marrow perhaps, or threatened to take the matter to authorities. Battle tapped the file before him. Pike's papers show Marrow positioned himself carefully. The trust amendment was signed by Mrs. Alderton last year during her bereavement when she was vulnerable. Mio suggested Basil Turnell locate Bells with romantic provenance. Turnell fabricated their history for a price and a share of proceeds. Can you prove it? Not yet, but I will. Battle spent the afternoon reconstructing movements. Jeffrey Marrow had been everywhere and nowhere, present when needed, absent when convenient. His background emerged slowly. Minor public school, modest family, 3 years in Paris learning fencing, a season in provincial theater, charm without substance, ambition without scruple. At 4 o'clock, Miss Phoebe Hart arrived from the village, summoned by Mrs. Alderton. She carried a notebook, her hands trembling. Mrs. Alderton thought you should see my schoolroom notes about the bells. Battle. Examine them. Simple music instruction for children, note patterns, mnemonic phrases. Miss Hart had transcribed the bell sequence and marked the acrostic. They spell Harbury when you shift the note letters. Just a parlor trick. Nothing ancient about it. Did you tell anyone this? Only Dr. Ellingham. Said it proved the bells were made for Lady Aurelia specifically. A fraud from start to finish. Miss Hart's voice dropped. She was going to expose everything, the false provenance, the aging techniques, the arranged valuation. Battle looked at the careful notes, the honest scholarship that had unraveled a calculated deception. 3 people had died to protect that deception and the trust control it facilitated. He found Mrs. Alderton in the drawing room, her face carved from ivory. Jeffrey has asked me to marry him. He says we can weather this together, that the foundation needs unified leadership. She met Battle's eyes. I said I needed time. Very wise. You suspect him? Was not a question. Battle weighed his response. I suspect someone who understands mechanics, who knows theater rigging, who had motive and opportunity. I need proof. Then get it. Her voice held still beneath the grief. Aurelia deserves justice. They all do. Battle climbed once more to the tower roof as evening gathered. He examined the weather vane bracket, the painted mule, the dimensions of the stair. Mechanism that could be rigged and triggered from below. Wire that would slice or pull. Phantom notes to mask the sound of murder. Elegant, clever, and damning once demonstrated. He smiled without humor and descended to set his trap. Chapter 5. The Demonstration. Chapter 5. The Demonstration. Sunday evening brought a break in the weather. Battle stood at the tower window, watching thin sunlight pierce the clouds, then turned to Narration. I need everyone assembled in the tower. At 7 o'clock. Tell them I've discovered how Lady Aurelia died and wish to demonstrate. Mio will object. I expect he will. At 6, Battle climbed to the tower roof with Paretta. The Factum carried a coil of wire, his face grim with understanding. You want it rigged as it was Friday? Exactly as it was. Can you do it? Paretta examined the weather vane bracket, the descent to the landing, the green null post. His hands moved with the confidence of long practice, threading wire through grooves, securing it at angles that made it nearly invisible. Dust the mule with chalk. Battle handed him the powder. Green tinted if you have it from the scene painting stores left. Over from the Christmas theatricals. Paretta's mouth twisted. Theater tricks. I should have seen it sooner. How could you? The man borrowed your knowledge without your knowing. The wire ran from vein to null in a configuration that made Battle's jaw tighten. Simple, elegant, murderous. Paretta tugged the wire from below the landing and the bells rehung for the demonstration chimed with 2 clear phantom notes. That's how it was done. At 7 o'clock they gathered. Mrs. Alderton climbed the stair with her head high, her black dress stark against the stones. Prince Idris followed, his face grave. Basil Turnbull wheezed behind them, mopping his forehead. Leia re-clutched the rail, her knuckles white. Miss Hart brought up the rear, her notebook pressed to her chest like armor. Geoffrey Marrow was the last to arrive. He smiled at Mrs. Alderton, touched her elbow with familiar ease, then turned to Battle with polite inquiry. A demonstration superintendent. Seems rather theatrical given the circumstances. Murder often is. Battle stood at the center of the tower roof, the rehung bells beside him, the assembled company, forming a half circle. The evening lights slanted across their faces, revealing tension, fear, calculation. Lady Aurelia died because she leaned too far over the parapet. Or so it appeared. But the bells produced 2 notes that should not have existed. Notes that came not from bronze, but from wire. Battle gestured to the apparatus. A wire ran from the weather vane bracket to the staircase. When Lady Aurelia rang the bells, someone below pulled the wire. It formed a loop around her waist, jerked her forward, then snapped free. The wire, striking metal, produced the phantom notes. Basil Turnbull made a strangled. Prince Idris remained motionless. Mrs. Alderton's face showed nothing. Elaborate, Marrow observed. His tone remained pleasant. But wouldn't such a wire be noticed? Not if the new had been freshly painted. The paint would obscure the fixing points. A scuff on that paint appeared. Friday evening, and a flake of green paint clung to the bell thong. Battle walked to the parapet. Dr. Ellingham discovered the bells were fraudulent. An acrostic spelling the harbor name, proof they were manufactured specifically for this scheme. She was strangled with similar wire. A metronome placed beside her to mask sounds and provide an alibi mechanism. Resin on that metronome matched resin used for gripping wire under tension. A shaving of green paint was pressed into the resin. Paint from this tower. Circumstantial. But Marrow's voice had lost its warmth. Oswald Pike discovered that with Lady Aurelia's death and signed, a continuing trustee gained control of Foundation assets. The trustee could approve valuations, direct sales, manage substantial sums. Pike threatened to expose this arrangement. He died of a fall that showed a second wire groove on. The new, a desperate repetition of the first murder. Battle turned to face Marrow directly. You position yourself carefully, Mr. Marrow. You suggested Mrs. Alderton add a continuing trustee provision during her grief. You connected Lady Aurelia with Basil Turnbull, who fabricated the bell's provenance for a share of proceeds. You learned theater rigging techniques during your season in provincial playhouses. You fenced in Paris. Wire tension leaves. Distinctive calluses. He held up his hand, showing the lateral mark. You have the same callus. I observed it Friday. Fencing is hardly evidence of murder. True, but this is battle. Nodded to Paretta, positioned below at the landing. The fact totem pulled the wire. The bells chimed their phantom notes. The wire vibrated against the chalked null, leaving a green-white smear. Catch it, Mr. Marrow. You know you want to. The instinct of a man who has worked wire. Meow's hand moved. Before thought could stop it. His fingers closed on the vibrating line, and when he pulled them back, green-tinted chalk marked them like accusation. Battle produced a small box from his pocket. Your fencing medal found in Peretta's workshop where you hid the wire. Crimson. Ribbon frayed. Crimson silk fibers were discovered in the wire coil hidden in Leia's basket. Fibers you used to bind your apparatus. He opened a second envelope. The trust amendment signed by Mrs. Alderton last year naming you continuing trustee. Oswald Pike's notes show you drafted the language yourself. With Lady Aurelia dead before signing new papers, you gained control. The bells could be sold at Turnbull's inflated valuation. The proceeds split quietly. The foundation's funds directed as you saw fit. He stood frozen, his chalk-marked fingers held before him like evidence incarnate. The pleasant mask had cracked, showing the calculation beneath. Beatrice signed willingly. She needed help managing the estate. I provided it. You provided murder. Mrs. Alderton's voice cut like wire. 3 times over for money and position and the illusion of indispensability. You would have married me. We could have built something together. I would have married a murderer. Turned away. I will testify against you. Me looked at his marked hands, at the assembled faces, at the tower that had been his instrument 3 times. Something in his posture shifted, the confidence draining, the charm evaporating, leaving only a man who had calculated poorly and lost completely. She was going to withdraw everything. Years of work of positioning of patience gone because she developed scruples about provenance. His voice held a terrible flatness. Dr. Ellingham would have destroyed the entire scheme. Pike would have exposed the trust arrangement. What choice did I have? The choice not to kill. Battles. Tone remained level. You will come with me now. Narracott stepped forward with handcuffs. Marrow offered no resistance, the fight gone from him. As they led him down the stair, Battle returned to the parapet. The bells hung silent now, they're honest. Chiming restored. He plucked them once, a simple homely sound carrying across the downs. There's your route, he murmured to the evening air. Not to gold, but to the gallows. Prince Idris approached, his face troubled. The bells will be returned to my family's archive. They deserve better than to be instruments of fraud and murder. Very fitting. Mrs. Alderton stood alone by the western wall, looking out at the sunset that had witnessed Lady Aurelia's death. Battle joined her. Thank you, Superintendent. Justice, not thanks. But I think she straightened her shoulders. The foundation will continue. The schools will be built, not with fraudulent bells and tainted money, but with honest purpose. Battle nodded and descended, leaving her to her grief and her resolve. Below in the courtyard, Marrow sat in the police motor car, his pleasant face. Now the threads of Timbuktu had led exactly where greed always led to. Exposure and accounting. The case was closed. Epilogue. The route to nowhere. Epilogue. The route to nowhere. 3 weeks later, Battle sat in his office at Scotland Yard, the autumn rain drumming against the windows. Before him bore the notation closed in red ink, but he found himself reviewing the pages one final time. Chief Constable Narracott had telephoned that morning with the last pieces. Marrow's solicitor tried for manslaughter. Couldn't make it stick. The jury took 40 minutes. Narracott's voice held grim satisfaction. The judge mentioned premeditation 3 times in his sentencing remarks. Mia will hang in December. Battle made a notation and closed the file. The mechanics of the case remained remarkable in their cold ingenuity. Wire and paint and borrowed theatercraft, transformed into instruments of death. 3 murders committed in full view of witnesses, each designed to appear as accident or untraceable crime. The first murder had required the most preparation. Marrow had repainted the new post himself. Thursday evening, claiming helpfulness while actually obscuring the wire attachment points. He had mislaid the tower key, then found it at the crucial moment, an old confidence trick, establishing him as the last to handle it. When Lady Aurelia rang the bells at sunset, Marrow positioned himself on the landing below, ostensibly admiring the. A single hard pull on the concealed wire jerked her forward. Loop snapped free as designed, leaving only tangled bells to suggest she had caught herself awkwardly while falling. The phantom notes had been unplanned, flaw in execution that Battle's trained ear had caught. The wire striking the bracket had produced sounds that did not belong. A small detail, but small details built cases. Dr. Ellingham's murder had shown Marrow's adaptability. When she decoded the cipher and threatened exposure, he acted swiftly. The metronome demonstrated particular cunning, set ticking at a tempo that matched normal walking pace. Provided him an alibi mechanism. He could throttle Ellingham behind the curtain, start the metronome, and reappear in the corridor precisely when the ticking rhythm suggested he should. Witnesses would place him away from the music room at the crucial moment, their sense of time aligned to the mechanical beat. The resin on the metronome base had been his mistake, transferred from his hands after gripping the wire. Resin improved, purchased essential for rapid strangulation, but that resin matched too. The weather vane groove connected both murders indisputably. Pike's death had been desperation. The solicitor had discovered the trust clause and confronted Mio Saturday. Marrow, knowing exposure was imminent, rigged a hasty version of his tower mechanism, but Pike fought, and the wire pulled loose, leaving the second groove on the knoll that proved repetition. Pike's dying words, line below, had pointed directly to the murder method, though he lacked breath to say more. I am not interrupted. Battle's thoughts. His secretary entered with tea and a letter. This arrived by afternoon post, sir, from Sussex. Battle opened the envelope. Mrs. Beatrice Alderton's handwriting remained firm despite circumstance. Dear Superintendent Battle, I write to inform you that the Harbor Foundation continues under new trustees. The board has elected to fund 3 schools in the Sahara region. One named for Lady Aurelia, one for Dr. Ellingham, and one for Mr. Pike. It seems fitting that good should come from tragedy. Prince Idris has taken the bells to his family archive. Before removing them, he confirmed what Miss Hart suspected. They were manufactured in Birmingham 18 months ago, aged artificially and seeded with a cipher. Obvious enough to intrigue, but simple enough to decode. A merchant's trick, as he called it. Mr. Turnbull has made full restitution and accepted a position, cataloging for a provincial museum. His days of creative provenance are finished. Leah Ree has gone to help Miss Hart with the village school. Proves surprisingly good with the younger children, and the work has steadied her. As for myself, I have returned to London and taken rooms in Bloomsbury. Greengate Hall holds too many ghosts. Have let it to a family from Manchester who know nothing of bells or towers, or men who smile while calculating murder. I think often of Geoffrey's words, what choice did I have? He had every choice. He chose position over principle, money over morality, and murder over honesty. 3 good people died because he fancied himself entitled to what he had not earned. Thank you for seeing what others missed. The phantom notes, the painted mule, the threads that bound them whole together. Justice, as you said, not thanks, but you have both. Respectfully, Beatrice Alderton. Battle folded the letter and filed it with the case papers. The Threads of Timbuktu had indeed led nowhere. No ancient gold, no caravan secrets, no mystical ciphers, only human greed dressed in romantic legend, and a clever man's belief that he could manipulate others without consequence. The real cipher had been simpler then. Any encoded in bells, money and control, and the murderous lengths some would traveled to secure both. Battle had seen it before. He would see it again. It rose and walked to the window. London spread below, gray and vast, full of lives intersecting and diverging, full of secrets and schemes, and the occasional murder that required patient, methodical unraveling. Somewhere in that city, another clever person was planning another clever crime, confident they would not be caught. Battle permitted himself a small grim smile. Cleverness was common. Wisdom was rare. The clever ones always believed their schemes infallible, their methods untraceable. They always left Threads Battle returned to his desk and opened the next file. Matter in Kensington, suspicious death, respectable household details that did not quite align. He settled his reading glasses and began. The work continued. It always did. In Sussex, Greengate Hall stood empty under autumn skies, its tower pointing toward clouds that knew no secrets. The weather vane turned in the wind, unmarked now, its grooves smoothed away by Peretta's careful file. The new post had been repainted again, this time in honest blue. The bells were gone, but on quiet evenings when the wind came from the sea, the tower still sang. Not with phantom notes or fraudulent ciphers, but with the simple sound of air through stone and honest sound, speaking of time and weather, and the endurance of things built truly. The Threads of Timbuktu had led exactly where greed always led, to exposure, judgment, and the gallows. 3 lives had been wasted, 1 soul corrupted beyond redemption, and all for control of funds and false bells, and the delusion that murder could be committed without accounting. Battle had provided that accounting. The scales balanced again as they must. Justice, not vengeance, truth, not triumph. He closed the Kensington file and reached for his hat. Evening had arrived and home called. Tomorrow would bring new cases, new puzzles, new threads to unravel. Tonight there was tea and his wife's sensible conversation, and the ordinary peace of a man who had done his work well. The rest was silence. Thank you for listening to the Threads of Timbuktu here on Mystery Manor. Superintendent Battle reminds us that even the simplest treasures can hide the most dangerous motives, and the truth, once unraveled, can never be neatly tied again. If you enjoyed tonight's mystery, please subscribe for more detective tales and share this story with fellow lovers of intrigue. You can also join our membership for ad-free exclusive mysteries. The link is in the description. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and may your evenings always be filled with good stories and warm company. This is Alfie, signing off from Mystery Manor.